So the 2022 Subaru BRZ, the next generation Subaru BRZ, just got revealed, and the entire community is pretty much completely split on it. There's a bunch of people that are completely unhappy with the styling, and there's also a bunch of people that are still kind of unhappy with the styling, but are really excited about the car based on its mechanicals. Now, I personally am really excited for the next generation BRZ, and oh my god, where are these people gonna go? The light's been green for the light's been green for 10 seconds, and they were just inching and inching and inching and just not going anywhere. Now, back on topic though of the 2022 Subaru BRZ, the next generation Subaru BRZ. Now, as of right now, as of filming this, we have not seen what the next generation Toyota 86 looks like, and I have no comment on that as of filming this particular video. However, got track brakes in the background as well. You can hear them squeaking. And now they're done. So the engine in the 2022 BRZ is where a lot of the hype comes from. I mean, you're talking about 228 horsepower out of the new 2.4 liter engine, as opposed to the 2 liter FA20 that we had before. Now, there's obviously a lot of internal updates and changes. I mean, it's a completely new engine, basically. At least a completely new engine for the car. However, one of the most interesting things for me personally was when I heard that it was going to have a factory oil cooler. That's a huge deal, and anybody that has tracked a FRS BRZ 86 of any previous variety, anybody that has taken one on track knows that these things absolutely overheat the crap out of their oil on the track. You basically have to buy an aftermarket oil cooler if you want to track one of these reliably without running into very risky oil temperatures. For example, this particular car, my BRZ TS, my 2018 TS, before I had an oil cooler on it, when I took it on track without an oil cooler, I was seeing oil temperatures of 260 to 265 degrees after only about 6 to 7 minutes or so on track. Now, if you consider the fact that your general track day sessions are about 20 minutes, that's pretty dangerous. You know what I mean? That's pretty dangerous for a stock engine. However, after going to a aftermarket oil cooler, like for example, this car has the Jackson Racing naturally aspirated oil cooler kit. After going to that kit at Road Atlanta, for example, we can stay out for a whole session and not even touch 240. So that's a huge difference. My personal sort of threshold where I start to get concerned about oil temperatures is anything that creeps close to 260 degrees. Some people have different thresholds, but for me, that's sort of like anything that creeps up to the 255, 260 mark, I start to get a little bit concerned about. And anytime you start to get up to 270 or over, that's when you have to just literally just call it quits, shut it down, because you're really putting your engine internals in a lot of danger, because you got to think, how thin is that oil going to be at 270 degrees or higher? Back to the engine itself, we're dealing with about 228 horsepower and around 180 something pounds-feet of torque. I think it's about 188 foot-pounds of torque in the new car, and that's a big jump. I mean, that's a huge jump over the previous generation. And one of the things I'm really hoping for out of the new car is a greatly improved mid-range. And what I've seen from at least the coverage that I've seen so far for it, ooh, blue BMW M2. That is gorgeous. But from the coverage I've seen, now keep in mind, this was filmed on the same day that all of the sort of press launch videos went live. So a little bit later on down the road, obviously there will be more information about the car and about the powertrain and things like that. But I'm really hoping for a much healthier mid-range, and obviously really hoping for an elimination of that torque dip. Now granted, you can cut out that torque dip with a tune pretty easily. However, it's not really going to give you that mid-range punch that adding almost half a liter in displacement to the engine is going to do. So adding almost half a liter in displacement is honestly, I think one of the best things they could have done for the car. I think it's potentially the best thing they could have done for the car. And again, with that factory oil cooler, I really hope that that oil cooler is efficient enough to be up to the task of track work. Now, in terms of the looks department, I mean, looks are 100% subjective, right? So you could show one person a Lamborghini Huracan and they'll say it looks great. You'll show another person a Lamborghini Huracan and they'll say it looks awful. Same deal with the BRZ. However, the new BRZ, I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, it looks like a Hyundai Tiburon, or oh, it looks terrible because of this, or oh, it looks terrible because of that. And I think it definitely looks like a mashup, right? It definitely looks like this odd mashup of a bunch of different kinds of cars, and not all of it looks to be straight out of Subaru's traditional design language, which is very interesting because if you take a look at a first generation BRZ and you put it next to like a WRX or an STI, you'll say, and you took the badge off, you would say, oh yeah, that's just looks like a Subaru, right? It looks like a Subaru when you park it next to other Subarus. The new BRZ, it still looks like it looks kind of like a Subaru, but if you took the badge off and parked it next to a bunch of other Subarus, to a untrained eye, it might not look like another Subaru. And I think a lot of people are still trying to find their footing with whether or not that's a good thing. There are some Subaru purists that I'm sure are going to say, no, that's not a good thing. That's bad. However, I do also think that breaking out of that mold is honestly probably a good thing. Breaking out of that mold really will help take this car to new places in terms of visuals. And I think the front end, it's weird. I like the front end. I actually like the front end of the new car a lot. The rear, I'm still sort of coming to grips with whether I like it or not. And yet again, I know that a lot of people have said the opposite. A lot of people have said that they're fine with the rear, but they can't stand the front. I really like the front because those big ducts down in the side of the bumper are actually functional. Those are actually open. And I'm not completely sure where they're routed to, if they're literally just routed straight into the fender, or if they have like more routing to them than that. I mean, if we could literally make functional brake ducting out of those, or I mean, my God, if those were functional brake ducts from the factory, oh my God, I mean, that would be huge, right? That would be absolutely huge. However, we don't know if that's the actual case or anything yet, and I'm sure the aftermarket will take care of something in that realm for us if that's not the case. Now, also, another point that is really important to talk about is the brakes. The brakes look fairly similar to the old car. At least the base model brakes look fairly similar to the old car. However, Subaru has been claiming that you've got increased brake feel, and I don't know if that's just marketing speak or if they actually have messed with the brakes other than the actual hardware. But if you're trying to add a bunch of extra stopping power and a bunch of extra a bunch of extra performance, usually the first thing they go after is the hardware. So I'm hoping that we get a version later down the road that comes with the Brembos that we see on the performance package cars and the TSs that we have now. And I'm sure that we'll see those special variants come to the new BRZ later on down the road. Now, I would love to know from you guys in the comment section down below, particularly if you either have experience with the BRZ and 86 platform, or if you own a 86 FRS BRZ. And I would love to know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Do the looks kill it for you? Or are you able to kind of like, are you in the mindset of like, no, I'm gonna look past the looks because I'm excited about the mechanicals? Personally, for me, I'm excited about the mechanicals. I'm not as concerned with how it looks as I am with the way it's going to perform mechanically. The way it's gonna perform mechanically is ultimately gonna be the deciding factor for me about the car. I'm also curious as to see how many parts, especially suspension parts, are interchangeable from this generation to the next generation. Are you serious? This dude in a V6 Chrysler 300 is attempting to pass a line of 5 cars on a blind hill on a 2-lane road. What? Another thing that I'm curious about with the new car is a lot of people, okay, so a lot of people have been saying that like, oh, it doesn't have a turbo, it's only got 228 horsepower. Ugh, that's not enough. Keep in mind that this generation dynos at something like 180 something wheel. You're dealing with like 180 something wheel horsepower on a stock tune. You're gonna be closer to probably a little over 200 wheel horsepower with a tune, or not, sorry, you're probably gonna be closer to a little over 200 wheel horsepower without a tune on the new car. And that in and of itself is a huge deal, right? Huge deal. And if you could kind of just engineer in a little bit more of that, you know, feeling of acceleration. Now, granted, you're not necessarily going to get the same kind of acceleration from a increase in displacement as you would from adding a turbo. You're just not. With a turbo, you get that shove. Even in a lower horsepower turbo car, like if you go back to, let's say, a Mazda Speed Miata, back from what, 2005, 2006, those cars still gave you a little bit of a turbo shove. You get a little bit of that torque shove from the turbo. Now, granted, it's not going to shove you back in your seat like a Hellcat or something like that, but it gives you that sensation of acceleration. Whereas a naturally aspirated engine doesn't necessarily give you the same sensation of acceleration at the lower power levels. However, when you're talking about 228 horsepower, keep in mind that you're talking about the same power range as a AP2 S2000. Now, AP2, AP1 S2000s, people never really, unless they're trying to be, let's see if we merge into traffic real quick. It's not really inspiring. And it's a stock FA20. There's not really going to be anything inspiring about it. However, I'm hoping that the new one, if it gives you about S2000 acceleration, you know, feel, I think you'd have a winner. I really think you would. Like, if you could get S2000 level acceleration out of a stock BRZ, you're pretty much golden. You really are pretty much golden. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people give enough credit where credit is due when it comes to, yeah, we added another, you know, almost 30 horsepower. Because I think in this day and age, people are so used to going, oh, 30 horsepower? That's nothing! Why would that impress me? I wanted 110 more horsepower and I wanted a turbo. Give me that. And I'm like, but if they gave you that, the BRZ would cost $55,000 or more. If you want that, if you want a 4-cylinder turbo car, go buy the new 4-cylinder Supra. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hope you did enjoy, and I will see y'all in the next one. Talk to y'all later.